Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KeyBadger.com, here to bring you another gear review, and today I'm talking optics. This one right here, which is the Kahles K16i. Taking a step back, when did I first put hands on this thing? It's been a while now. It was actually back when I did my factory to table series. Went back to New Hampshire to Q, ended up building this minifix. At the time, it was the 300 blackout pistol. It is now 5.56 SBR. But in that series, I ended up actually going down, met up with Phil of Scalarworks, built this Leap scope mount, and in doing so, dropped this optic into it. Next, I ended up taking it back home, back up to Idaho, and put some rounds through it. Ended up shooting it with that minifix pistol. After that, had an opportunity to go down to Texas, so went ahead and swapped it over to a pretty sweet little AR pistol and ran it down there. Trying to finish out that factory to table series, I was kind of hounded by some bad luck, but what it really translated into was me spending a lot of time with this optic and this gun out in the backcountry. So what did that mean? Well, I will say a lot of time I spent actually over a bear bait for both spring as well as fall bear season. And I saw a little bear, too little of a bear, didn't want to shoot him, and yeah, ultimately, I ended up never getting a bear. I finally ended up getting a pig actually with my little minifix and 300 blackout. But spending all that time over that bear bait, especially whether it was dawn or dusk, like all the way into basically a half an hour after like sunset, end of shooting light, I will say this optic did amazing. It's one of those where it's kind of a nuanced thing where you're like, oh, hey, this optic's really clear, or it really does a good job gathering light. It's really hard to describe in a video, but I will say my experience with this at night, I mean, obviously it's not night vision, but being able to look at something with your naked eye and then go ahead and bring this up and see it even more clear when it's really dark, or getting to the point where it's really dark, like dusk. Amazing, incredible glass in these lenses. Which probably brings us to Kahles. If you're unfamiliar, they are probably one of, if not the oldest optics manufacturers still in business. Started in 1898 in Vienna, over in Austria, and they actually pioneered lens coating in the 70s. Now, pretty much all optics have coated lenses. And what the coatings do is magic. Honestly, I don't know other than to say they basically help lenses gather light. I'm guessing probably blocking certain frequencies, allowing other frequencies through, some sort of science / magic. But they kind of pioneered that, and I can definitely attest to this optic as far as those coatings being able to gather a lot of light, especially at those dusk or even like kind of pre-dawn, those hours where it's pretty dark, but you have a little bit of light, gathers it all, brings it right into the optic. Briefly, we'll talk stats. The optic is about 11 inches long, weighs just over 1 pound, has a 30 millimeter tube with a 24 millimeter objective lens. The adjustments rather, are in mils, 0.1 mils, so approximately 1 centimeter at 100 meters, or about a little over 1/3 of an inch at 100 yards. Approximately 22 mils of adjustment. The turrets are capped, keeping you from accidentally bumping your zero off. And the adjustments are very distinct, if not super loud. The optic moves very easily from 1 to 6, back to 1 with the built-in throw lever. K16i is a second focal plane optic, meaning as you increase the magnification or decrease the magnification for that matter, reticle stays exactly the same, so doesn't change. When you look through, as far as how big something is in the reticle, if you're going to use it for any type of ranging or anything along those lines, it's all set to 6 power. So at max magnification, which makes sense, if something's far, you want to get a better look at it, try and figure out how far it is, crank this thing up, and at max magnification, all your basically lines, whatever they equate to, whether it's 1 mil or half mil piece coming off the stadium line, they all represent and are accurate as 1 mil or half mil, something along those lines. So right now we'll take a look at this reticle, looking through it at some IPSC targets. Right here is a IPSC target at 50 yards, 1 power. Here's that same IPSC target magnified up to 6 power. Right here is the IPSC target at 100 yards on 1x. And 100 yards at 6x. And here's looking at the illumination in the reticle. Reticles, I think, absolutely make or break optics. And this one I actually like, but it really comes down to, do you like the reticle? Do you know how to use it? Because if you don't, then probably find a different optic. As I mentioned, this has 3 different offerings, this being the 3GR reticle. One thing that is nice is the illumination on the side. It's actually kind of a scale. So some will go from like 1 to 10, and there may or may not be an off in between, something along those lines. This one, it's a dial. And so as you go up, it just gradually gets brighter and brighter. And then when you come back down, it turns itself off, or you turn it off. It will turn itself off if you end up leaving it on for a long period of time, like, I don't know, probably 2+ hours. It'll eventually turn itself off, save the battery, which is good because I've definitely left it on. Having used this optic a lot on a couple different guns, what are my thoughts? Honestly, I really like it. It does an amazing job in that low light. And second focal plane, honestly, I think it serves most people the best because 1, at 1 power, you have your reticle and it works great. And then when you crank it up to 6, or in this case 6, but max magnification, you can basically use your reticle as far as holds, ranging, everything like that. And usually the way people are using their guns is if something is far, they're going to have it all the way up at max magnification, in which case your holds, everything like that, you're good to go. Whereas usually on 1 power, not really an issue. And with that, the hard part with optics is finding a good reticle that reads well at 1, and then when you crank it up to 6, 8, whatever, it still works. Usually you have one or the other. And so second focal plane pretty much alleviates that. Who do I think this would be good for? Well, anyone that likes the reticle, because I think reticles basically make the optic for people. So if you don't like the reticle, move on or check out the other 2 offerings. 2, someone that might find themselves shooting in low light. You can get away with a lot of optics like broad daylight, at the range, doing whatever. But when you get into situations, especially hunting, things along those lines, where basically that hour before sunrise, half hour before sunrise, half hour after sunset, like that shooting light, this really shines there. Now granted, might not be the reticle for that for most people, but for me and the way I've used it, it's done a great job. If you pick one up, have some experience with it, let me know how it's done for you. And As always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.
As I walk